Welcome to PodcastOne. We hope you'll support our sponsors who bring you these podcasts absolutely free and with limited interruptions. And of course, we appreciate you listening to this show, which will get started in just a second.
The Steve Austin Show Unleashed is sponsored in part this week by FanDuel. Football is back, which means FanDuel is back. FanDuel is fantasy football for everyday fans. There are new contests starting every week. There's something for everyone at FanDuel. Lots of contests to choose from, starting at just $1. Just pick a contest, choose your team, and watch your score in real time. Over 2.5 million players have won a cash prize playing fantasy sports on FanDuel. Sign up today. Just go to FanDuel.com, click the Join Now button, and use my code Austin. Don't get left out this NFL season. Try FanDuel for free with no deposit required. Visit FanDuel.com to claim your free contest and play for a share of $10,000. Just sign up using my promo code Austin. That's FanDuel.com, promo code Austin. Void where prohibited.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production. He started in a small town in Texas. Worked his ass off to become one of the most famous wrestlers of all time.
We're going to take care of business tonight, and that's the bottom line.
And now he's dominating the world of on-demand audio. And he's doing it for the working man.
This is a damn good outlet for me to spew the bullshit off my brain.
Yeah! This is Steve Austin Unleashed.
All right, everybody, welcome to Steve Austin Show. I am coming to you from the mean streets of Los Angeles, California today. I'm sitting here at 317 Gimmick Street flapping my gums. God damn it, I was madder than a hornet a little bit earlier. I tried to call Court Bauer of MLW Radio and try to do a podcast with him. I said, hey, man, what are you doing? Let's talk some wrestling. He said, okay, I ain't done a podcast in a while. So I called Court up, got everything spinning up, got ready to do a sound check, and my goddamn call recorder on my Skype wasn't working. It was fucked up. Wouldn't record. It would record me, but it would not record him. I had a one-sided conversation. Well, that don't work good because when I was asking the questions, he was providing the answers, so it wasn't capturing that. So I called my good buddy Dan Brady. We get on the line. We go through the checklist. All I needed was a software update. Got call recorder up and running. And I tell you what, man, I like to push a button, and half the time I fuck that up. I like to push a button, and I like to record. And then I like to hit the button, and I like to turn the podcast in so my producer can put all the commercials in and all that shit, and I ain't got to worry about nothing else. That son of a bitch went cattywampus on me today, and I didn't know where to shit or wind my watch. Well, I did. I called Dan Brady, and he fixed it. So got up and running, recorded a conversation with Court Bauer. He's got a show coming up in Orlando on October 5th, Major League Wrestling. And goddamn, he's got a good card going into that show. So check it out. You'll hear information while we're talking about the show, how you can get tickets, and how you can watch it stream on his website as well. So we're sitting here shooting the breeze. We're talking a little about WWE action, some booking scenarios, and the championship picture. Talk a little bit about the Sexy Star incident that happened over there in AAA. I hadn't heard too much about it, just stuff I read on the computer. Shoot the breeze about the shit like that. And other than that, hell, I ain't got a goddamn thing going on. I got my Traeger grill out the back of my pickup truck. I can't remember if I talked about that or not. And goddamn pickup truck is running fine. I'm going to keep that sumbitch. I'm going to put 200,000 miles on it. I ain't going to get no new pickup truck. I got my new Traeger grill. I've been using that thing ever since I started filming Broken Skull Challenge. And I finally decided, it might be a good thing to go ahead and take this thing apart and clean it out. Because I didn't know how often you're supposed to clean out a Traeger grill. First goddamn pellet grill I ever had. Took that thing apart and shit, there wasn't hardly nothing in it. Because I'm just cooking lean chicken breasts and salmon, stuff like that. So it wasn't hardly shit in there. I did find that old chicken breast that I kicked off in there a while back was I was filming the Broken Skull Challenge. And that thing was all burnt and it looked like it was probably about a quarter the size it was when I kicked it in there by accident. It reminded me of that 56 million year old fossil, that dinosaur they found over there somewhere in Texas, the Triceratops. It looked like it was 56 million years old, but it wasn't. It was about 2 months old, and I've been barbecuing and smoking the shit out of it ever since I dropped it. That's that one of them ants was kicking my ass that one night, trying to get that damn chicken breast. You couldn't even smell that summit no more, so it wasn't drawing no more ants. That summit was charred and fucked up. Got that thing out of there. Got my shop back in there, cleaned out all the goddamn debris. Mister, I am up and running. That thing is cooking like a bastard, and I love that sumbitch. That's a badass pellet grill. And you talk about some good salmon, some good chicken. And that's how I'm able to maintain my fucking eating program. Same shit every single day, and I look forward to eating that salmon. And when I eat that chicken, it's the best, most tender, smoked chicken I've ever had in my life. So it's a good thing. It works out good for me. Finally clean that motherfucker up. I ain't got shit going on over here. Just a bunch of random stories. God dang, man. I'm just talking about Orlando, Florida with Court Bauer. I was looking out there on the headlines on the computer. It looks like Irma went through the Caribbean islands, is heading, I guess, towards Miami. I don't know what they're saying right now, if it's going to turn off track or maintain the projected path. And if it hits up in Miami, man, I don't know what they're advising you guys down there in Florida as far as the weather goes, but man, if they tell you to haul ass, please haul ass. What we've seen from Hurricane Harvey, devastation can happen very, very quickly, and this is a Category 5 hurricane, strong as they come. Harvey was a motherfucker. Rockport, caught the brunt of that wind, and Houston, that old area, caught all that rain, and there's still devastation going down there. Damn, what a hellacious bullshit season of hurricanes, and these motherfuckers are bad. You talk about a heel. These things are working up some heat, and somebody needs to put these motherfuckers out of business. So my thoughts are still with everybody over in the Houston area, that whole, coastal region down there in South Texas, Southeast Texas, and down there in Corpus and Rockport where Teddy Fowler 361's at. He just posted a picture on his Instagram account of the grocery store down there, and there wasn't shit but 2 bags of stuff on the damn racks. So it looks like groceries is still pretty scarce over in that area. A lot of people still living in shelters. A lot of people still it's going to be a long time before people get their lives back. I mean, a long time, years. So my thoughts with everybody down there in that area. And right now, just stop talking about hurricanes. If you're down there in Irma's way, man, get out of Dodge, and things are kicking ass and taking names later. So please heed the warnings if you listen to the Weather Channel or whatever you're watching. I hope everybody can ride that thing out, or not weather the storm, but just be safe down there. If they tell you to leave, leave. Well, God damn it, speaking of Broken Skull Challenge, from a while ago when I was talking about that Traeger grill, that show, the season premiere, is set for September 26th, and that's less than 3 weeks away, and it's just an ass kicker of a season. Couldn't be any more proud of the athletes, men and women, that came out there and the challenges we threw at them. And god damn, wait till you see the damn trailer for this season. You talk about epic. Holy smokes. God damn, that summit was chilling. It'll be out pretty quick. Great time out there. Thanks to all the athletes. September 26th, 10/9 Central on CMT. That's going to be on a Tuesday, September 26th. So make sure you tune in and set your DVRs. Hey, man, I'm going to get right down to business right here. I'm going to strike up this conversation with Court Bauer, and let's get into the podcast. Before I turn you on to Court Bauer, we'll talk about that show down there in Orlando on the 5th of October. MLW, Major League Wrestling, is having a show in Orlando, and you listen to the details in the podcast October 5th. Always good to talk to my buddy, Court Bauer. And anyway, before I get to him, the new PodcastOne app is now available for download in the App Store or Google Play. And there ain't another podcast app like this one anywhere. And that's because the new PodcastOne app is loaded with some cool features that let you do a lot more than just listen to your favorite shows. You can access behind-the-scenes photos, articles, and connect with other fans of the shows you like. And you can watch over 1,000 360 virtual reality videos. You can actually watch some of your favorite shows in virtual reality. It's like you're sitting right in the room. So get to the App Store or Google Play and download the new PodcastOne app now. All right, before we get to Court Bauer of MLW Radio, I got a little spot for you coming up, and that is a big shout-out to TrueCar. When you're looking to buy a new car, you want to feel comfortable that you are getting a fair price. With TrueCar, you can get information that empowers you with pricing context and lets you see what other people in your area paid for the car you want. It's pricing you'll see before going to a dealership so you can feel confident when you show up. And with TrueCar, you can connect with a local certified dealer of your choosing. When you're ready to buy a new car, visit TrueCar to enjoy a more confident car buying experience. Some features are not available in all states.
Here at Podcast One, we love hearing from you. We read every tweet and comment you send our way, so don't miss your chance to take our summer listener survey. Just go to PodcastOne.com and click on the survey banner, or go to PodcastOne.com/mysurvey. It only takes a few minutes, and it gives you the opportunity to make a direct impact on your favorite shows. Tell us how you really feel, so we can get to know you better. We value your thoughts and participation, so check out the survey at PodcastOne.com/mysurvey. Or click on the survey banner on PodcastOne.com.
This is Steve Austin Unleashed.
Normally you don't start a podcast out like this, but since this is a Steve Austin Show Unleashed, Jiminy H. Cricket on the popsicle stick. Holy fuck, technology problems. I got them by the shitload. Court Bauer of MLW Radio is my guest today. Court, how are you? As you endure this one-man clusterfuck over here on my end on the West Coast, you doing your end on the East Coast.
Yeah, I'm here for moral support and for technical guidance through this last hour here that we've been trying to record.
Jesus Christ. I called Court up and said, hey, man, you feel like doing a podcast? He goes, hey, man, I ain't done a podcast in a while. I got all kinds of info, 411, things I'm working on. Let's do a podcast. So I called him up on Skype, and sure enough, I needed to update my call recorder, which to you as a listener, you probably think, well, what does that mean? It means that my call recorder was not working, so that one end of the conversation was not recorded. Therefore, it had been a one-sided conversation. Only 50% of the content would have been recorded. So I had to call my technology guy, who happened to have some free time to spare, and got on, helped me update my system, and now here we are rocking and rolling. Court, it's these small things that smart people just work their way through. But for an idiot like myself, who has an award-winning podcast, which ain't never won shit, it's a real pain in the ass, brother. It is a pain in the ass. It just makes me want to take the podcast business and say, you know what? It was fun for a while, but I'm done with you.
Wow, coming in strong and hot here on the podcast business. I think. Listen, you seem a little downtrodden. I think we're going to kick out. I think it's going to be a good show from here on out.
It's going to be a good show, Court. I'm not going to wipe my hands of the podcast business. All I needed was a reboot of the system, and we're off and running. You think I'm going to let the people of America? Oh well, fuck this show goes all over the world. I'm not going to let the people of the world go that goddamn easy. I'm not going down with a fight, Bauer. I'm here to stay. Oh, I don't know how long that's going to last, but nonetheless, I got my technology problems covered. Court Bauer, shoot some hot angles down there in the state of Florida. I got a big card coming up. All kinds of bullshit. And I wanted to weigh in and get your thoughts on the old sexy star incident. You've got the word on the street. You've got sources out there. I ain't got shit on the West Coast. I'm just trying to get my technology to work. There's a lot of shit going on in the wrestling business, mister. Where do you want to start?
Well, that's what we call a digital spirit of 76 comeback, man. You came back with the fire right there, and I'm glad. Well, man, there's so much to cover. You got No Mercy coming up. You had Big Show versus Braun on Monday Night Raw, which really was a hell of an old-school big man match. And Braun Strowman, to me, cutting some great promos, showing some good fire, and really has risen to the occasion over the last year and change since the brand split, since they broke him off from the Wyatt family. So I'm really impressed with where that's going. And I think No Mercy, if you look at that card, damn, that is a hell of a card. That's like a WrestleMania card, not a typical B show, C show card. So LA is going to be getting a big-time show coming up soon, and it's going to be a hell of a show.
Well, goddamn, I thought SummerSlam was off the charts. Once you got to the middle of the card and started building onward, and to me it was that tag match with Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, those two guys kicking it off. I thought that was a damn good event. And when you're talking about the Big Show, Braun Strowman angle, so you're really digging that. And I've been high on Braun Strowman for a long time, and I've been high on him ever since I had him on the podcast, and that's why I wanted him on the podcast, because I went down to one of the buildings, wherever it was, and I was talking to this guy, and I was like, you know what? Goddamn, I thought this was going to be some big, strong motherfucker who didn't, know shit. He was very articulate, very eloquent, very gabby, and very talkative, and it turns out within the short period of time that guy's been in the business, he hasn't Kurt Angled it because he's a whole different, ball game than what a Kurt Angle was. And Kurt Angle came from an Olympic wrestling gold medal background. But goddamn, this kid has really picked up the business good. His instincts are good. He's a great athlete. I don't want him to be too good of an athlete, so he starts doing, shit off the top turnbuckle. But goddamn, and that fatal four-way, whatever you call those matches, with those guys, just a few weeks ago was just lights out, off the charts. He had a real important role in that match. He was kind of the star, in my opinion. So, hey, man, the sky is the limit for that guy, and I think if they keep doing him, pushing him the way they are, they're really gonna have a superstar on their hands.
Yeah, and he's got intensity, he's got fire, and he is the prototype for what Vince McMahon likes out of a big-time main event guy. And he's delivered on it. He really has. When he comes out, you feel that intensity, and he delivers it in his match. He lays his shit in. He just keeps pushing it, and that's what Vince looks for in a guy like that. So he's been a great get for WWE in the long run. I think he's going to be fantastic, and I'm curious to see what they do with that match with Brock Lesnar. Do they flip the title? Where do they go with Brock Lesnar? Because he is in a contract year. At WrestleMania, his contract is up. It's weird that the contract would lapse right then, but that's the way it was structured when they sealed their deal 3 years ago in San Jose. And here we are 3 years later, and come WrestleMania time, he will compete at WrestleMania. But the flip side of WrestleMania is a question mark. Where does Brock Lesnar go? UFC? Stay with WWE? You can make a compelling case for both, but what do they do in the here and now? I don't like Braun Strowman chasing the belt for the first time and being unsuccessful. They had a creative workaround recently on that, but man, I do not like seeing a babyface, big monster like that deny the belt when he's chasing it, because that chase is pure. It's the big money, and you dilute it every time you have a babyface like that, especially chase and be unsuccessful.
Well, that's an interesting thought, but man, in my eyes, that belt ain't going to switch hands till WrestleMania. And so you don't, God dang, you don't want Brock to go over clean by hook or by crook. Something has to happen if he's going to be denied that chase. And like you said, you don't want the baby to chase. I just don't see that pay-per-view as being the pay-per-view that belt changes hands.
And they got some time before we see if they could plant a seed to get out of that. But you could, of course, have someone like Samoa Joe, who I think will be out for a few more weeks, come in. Maybe his injury isn't as bad as people think, and he almost basically does a Braun Strowman and comes back early. But I don't know how you get out of that finish. I don't want to see a screwy finish. But if you give me something that then splinters off and gives Braun Strowman a different path for the next few months, I'm fine with that. I just don't know what that is. And at the same time, what's that main event? Who do you see Brock Lesnar dropping the belt to come WrestleMania in New Orleans?
Man, I never look that far forward. I try to DVR the show and keep up as much as I can. I kept thinking that it was going to be Roman. Just because he got him figured to be, as the guy, no pun intended.
So does Vince. One day maybe we'll get there.
But I just don't see this pay-per-view being the one that is the one that a belt is exchanged at, especially with Brock being the guy that's holding that belt. And do you really feel that if a babyface chases and is denied, that takes the luster off that babyface?
Yes, absolutely. If you had failed at WrestleMania 14 in Boston to beat Shawn Michaels, it would have stunted your momentum, and it would have neutered you a little bit. Not all the way, but it would have definitely taken some steam off of you. And then how do you come out of that and be whole and go then and chase the title again without it feeling redundant, unless you get some really cool twist on it? There's always exceptions to the rule. But, man, I look at when Hogan chased his first title. When everyone chases that title, it should be a big pursuit. Sting chasing Flair. Those things should be meaningful. And you get into a position like where Lex Luger chase failed. He became lesser than top act. And all respect to Lex Luger, that was the residual effect it had on him as an attraction.
But at No Mercy, I think both Brock and Braun are bigger than the pay-per-view. Now, if it was a SummerSlam or a WrestleMania, then I could see, hey, man, that's the big stage. That's where it needs to happen. And you can make a case, like you're saying, hey, if the baby chasing is denied, it's kind of, they're going to start weakening off a little bit. I would say, I don't know. I just don't see... I don't know. I just don't see the belt changing right here, right now. I think you do make a very valid point. And had I not won at 14, that would have stunted what I was going to go on to do. But to me, this doesn't feel like that pay-per-view. And if you can come out, well, you must come out creatively in such a fashion that, Brock continues on and Braun is untainted. But can you do that with Braun losing? I don't know. I guess, that's going to be the million-dollar question, which is going to be answered come finish time in that match.
Yeah, sometimes Vince wants to just book a match because it's a big marquee money match, or he'll hold it off because it is. And you'll ask him, well, what's the finish? And he goes, we'll get there. Other times he has the finish. He knows clearly. He sees the vision for it. But other times he says, we'll get there. And so you're then trying to retrofit your out based on what you built, and sometimes it can be a little dicey. Other times you have very talented people like Michael Hayes in there that are great, and Pat Patterson as well when he's ever around, so give you a great out for something like that. That's going to be on them to figure out later this month in LA, because that I don't want to see either guy diminished from the wrong finish. But again, where's your long term with Brock Lesnar? I don't mind if he finished up with a company that he drops the title on his last day. No problem with that at WrestleMania. I just don't know who he would face at WrestleMania that's compelling enough as an attraction that you can get there. Could it be Finn Balor with a smaller babyface fighting from underneath a monster? Perhaps. It seems like he's right now almost in a holding pattern doing this feud with Bray Wyatt. They're trying to stretch it out as much as they can. He was at one point factored into a program with Brock Lesnar later this fall. I don't know where that stands right now. Maybe they've postponed that to the flip side as the road to WrestleMania builds in 2018. I don't know. But Cena versus Lesnar at WrestleMania. It's a big match, sure. Roman Reigns. I don't really want to see Roman versus Lesnar, especially if it's Lesnar's last match. Then you get into this weird territory where you have this de facto heel, even though he's supposed to be a babyface, in Roman Reigns against Lesnar, who's leaving. It's like Goldberg-Lesnar in a weird way from WrestleMania 20, which you saw front and center at the Garden. And it's this weird energy in the arena, or in the stadium in this case, and that wouldn't feel right either. So there's a lot of questions. I wonder if we'll find out where things are headed based on the finish. Not necessarily. I mean, if Brock loses, that doesn't mean he's by any means a stretch of the imagination gone from WWE come WrestleMania season. He could be very much still alive and re-up and be there the day after WrestleMania for sure, but who's to say? But it's a good card. I mean, you have that as your top match. John Cena versus Roman Reigns underneath that in the semi-main position. Then you have Rollins and Ambrose versus Cesaro and Sheamus for the Raw Tag Team titles. Really good match. And Alexa Bliss versus Sasha Banks, Nia Jax, and Emma in a fatal four-way for the women's title on Raw. And, man, I've been watching a lot of Alexa Bliss lately, and my takeaway, she's a great heel, but, man, I think down the road there is a babyface run in her.
Man, I think she's a great heel too, and I see a big babyface run for her, but I want to see her as a heel. Another 6 months to a year as she continues getting her chops down. I mean, she hasn't been in the business very long, and she's doing outstanding, and she's really good on the stick. The young lady's a good promo, and her work is really coming along. But there's still, some more maturation process. She needs more reps, and for the amount of time she's been in the business, she's awesome. But I just really enjoy her as a heel. And so she could have that tremendous run as a baby, but I still think she'll be a bigger baby if she remains heel for a while longer. I think if you look at the women's division, and me following it not quite as intently as you, but man, there is a lot, quite frankly, there's a lot of women, 4 to 5, who are really on a great trajectory and with a lot of momentum behind them, and they don't have the momentum that they used to have. And they've turned baby, they've turned heel. Some of them, I don't know what they are. Right. The women's division, in my opinion, has lost some of the momentum that it had before. And this is all on an individual case-by-case basis, and that ended up making, the women's division. A lot of the women have, to me, lost a little bit of their identity, mojo, or momentum.
Sasha definitely has been a victim of some funky finishes. The story they're trying to tell where she can't get a title defense in and she always drops the belt once she wins it. It's just, I don't know what kind of heat that is, really. I think it just takes the wind out of her sails. They've done a pretty good job with Alexa Bliss. They've switched the title a few times off her, but they put it right back on. To your point, I think there's a lot of parallels between Alexa Bliss and Trish Stratus. Trish started out as a manager, so did Alexa Bliss, both with Tag Team acts. Then they got in the ring, and Trish initially was a heel, and then she transitioned to a babyface, and she kind of went back and forth a few times, but she got her chops as a heel, like most do, and then it's easier to be a heel than a babyface. But once that psychology is down, I think you can take it to the next level and be a babyface a lot easier. And I see the same kind of path that you do. In about a year, maybe a year and a half, Alexa can be a hell of a babyface because she's small, fighting from underneath. She's spunky. I think she can be a phenomenal babyface. But right now, she's a great heel to anchor that division. Nia Jax, I think, is a great monster for the division. SmackDown has struggled the last few months with the championship, with Charlotte not having the belt, Becky not having the belt. I like Naomi a lot, but it just didn't feel like the top star had the belt, and the belt felt a little diminished as a result. Curious to see what they do with Asuka, who's going to be called up. Where does she end up? Raw? SmackDown? I think SmackDown may need her a little bit more right now, but you can make the argument for Raw too. And she's a great get for the main roster either way.
But let's go back a little bit to Sasha Banks. And to me, man, I guess somewhere along the ways, I missed it, turned her baby. And, man, she's one of my favorite women wrestlers. Oh, Jesus Christ, I got to say sports entertainers. She's one of my favorites. I like her as a legit boss with that music coming down with the swagger. I like her as a heel. Yeah, and she can have a great babyface run when they want to have a great babyface run. It just seems like right now it's kind of, I don't know, middle-of-the-road booking. I don't even know what middle-of-the-road necessarily means. It's just kind of so-so booking. But I just love her as a damn heel. And then all of a sudden I start watching her. I'm like, man, did she flip baby somewhere along the way? And she kind of lost that mojo. And I don't want to say she lost it. I think the booking lost it.
Yes.
She's still Sasha Banks.
Yes.
I just love the gimmick, the persona, the ability to sell stuff at the gimmick stand, but she just is an entertainer. Man, when she has that smile on her face, that nasty, just that mean streak, that cocky swagger smile, I just love her as a heel, but they've lost her. She hasn't lost herself. Something is missing there I missed it along the way.
Yeah, no, mechanically her work is sharp. She has poise. She carries herself like a star. But the presentation where you have someone win the title and then they drop it repeatedly like it's Groundhog's Day, it's like it just has reverse heat. It just doesn't give her credibility. It doesn't enhance her at all to say she's a multi-time champion because they keep hitting hard. Well, she always drops the belt the next time. So it doesn't really give her much. And Bayley's another one they've really
That's the one I was going to ask you to bring up, because all of a sudden we're talking about all these, I brought it up. Some of the women seem to have kind of lost their direction. And then Bayley, was the shoulder injury a shoot or work? Because now all of a sudden she's out of the picture. She's another one. I can't say that everyone's my favorite. She's another one of my favorites. And all of a sudden, she's all of the win has been taken out of her sail.
Yeah, and she started getting booed at the TVs, and she was someone that I thought was going to be bulletproof from that for a long time. But again, if you book someone in a weird place, very quickly they can stumble, and it's not them; it's just how you present them. If you don't make someone like that a real babyface, you make them lesser than, and then they're lesser than. Perception is reality. This is all smoke and mirrors. It's a magic show in a lot of ways, and if you take the show in a different direction, the people are going to respond accordingly, and that's what I think we're seeing there. And yet I also see the flip side, what WWE's doing with the Mae Young Classic. A lot of great talent in that from Japan. They even brought in a new prospect from Brazil who has a judo background. A really cool eclectic mix of talent, and I think you're going to see a whole new wave of great talent coming up through NXT and the main roster in the next 12 to 18 months there. And so we'll see. I think they know they have to give these women on both rosters some new dancing partners. It's imperative. I love watching Becky Lynch and all the variations of her matches she's had on SmackDown. Same for Charlotte. Same for a lot of these women. But you need new blood up there, and you need it fast. And so hopefully that happens. I don't know if you've seen the Mae Young Classic, but I think they've done a great job. I think Jim Ross has done a great job. It's great to hear him back on the air, and he really gives the girls a lot of credibility because of how he kind of lays down their background and builds them up. And I've missed that from WWE TV a bit.
Hey, man, while I go to segue just a little bit out of WWE action and just get all over the place anyway, you said Star. So I started thinking I got to hear about Sexy Star. The lady, a woman's wrestler who put Jesus Christ, what's she have, an arm bar on?
She had an arm bar on Rosemary, who is a Global Force Wrestling knockout wrestler. And it was TripleMania, which is AAA's biggest show of the year, usually at the end of the summer, usually around late August, not always, but for the last 25 years, that has been their WrestleMania, TripleMania. And it's a long storied history. At one point, Jake the Snake Roberts wrestled in a huge match there. Guys, just who's who have gone through there. Kurt Angle, you name it, they've all gone through there. Eddie Guerrero through the years, Rey Mysterio. So it is like a big deal down in Mexico. And this year they partnered a bit with Global Force to bring some of their talent down, and they mixed it up in some matches. And then in this match, it was a women's match, and Sexy Star, who has a long history of AAA, both good and bad, had returned recently to the company, was their basically what you would refer to as their women's champion, the Rey de Reinas champion, Queen of Queens. And she was in this match, and she claims that things broke down and she was defending herself, and she's changed her story a few times. But if you watch the video, and it's been everywhere. The New York Post reported on it. I mean, this thing really became a mainstream story here in the United States and in Mexico too, to some extent. And it was pretty nasty. Rosemary got a little dinged up from it, and she's going to be okay. But again, you're giving your body to someone. There's a level of trust, and why did she shoot on her? There's a lot of questions. Having worked with AAA, having worked a lot with folks down in Mexico, there's some people saying it's part of the culture. Hey, this is just part of what happens. Sometimes they'll shoot on each other. It's not a big deal. Yeah, no, but not like this. And the women in AAA do have a bit of a reputation. The Mexican women, Fabi Apache, broke Taya's nose, and they'll beat the shit out of American women on the occasion. And I don't know if it's just there's some rivalry there. The American women aren't the ones starting it for sure, but
yeah,
it's
but is that someone just taking liberties, or is that like back in the days, if you were going to go to Japan, that was a story that my first tour, I'd always heard, hey man, if you don't go over there and stand up for yourself, the Japanese guy is going to take some shots at you or work strong style or whatever. So lay your shit in or set an example. So speaking when you're speaking specifically about the Mexican women over in AAA, picking on the American women, is it, hey man, if you're going to lay your shit in, I'm going to bring my shit too. Now, I'm not talking about a hold like the arm bar when you're giving that arm and all of a sudden someone snaps it, with the broken nose you were speaking of. Is it the same old Japan mentality?
No.
Or,
I mean, they're taking liberties.
Okay.
They're taking liberties. There's been a lot of women beaten up and abused over there in Mexico. And for a long time, one of the senior agents in AAA was Gran Apache, who's Fabi's father. And so he kind of was supportive of this, so you didn't have any accountability. So the women were causing a lot of problems from Mexico towards the American women, but this became a massive issue because just mainstream coverage of wrestling has exploded in the last few years. You have Sports Illustrated, great writers like Justin Barrasso covering it, and there's a lot more awareness than 5, 10, 15 years ago. And that's a good thing. And it kind of holds promotions and people accountable if these kind of crazy things come up. And, down there too, the business is different in that a lot of people consider it still a protected business. Kayfabe kind of sort of exists down there to some extent. So from the office's point of view, they were in a weird position of how do we explain this? Because if this is a shoot, why would we have any sanctions against Sexy Star? So they have to kind of protect their own business, yet you can also come up with a reason. Hey, there was some incident. You just make up an incident and this person's suspended, and that's what you tell the public. You don't have to give a real reason to say they're suspended. And then ultimately she was stripped of the title, and she's going to be sitting out for a period of time. So we'll see what happens with Sexy Star's future in AAA or in general with Lucha Libre. I don't know many people that are going to want to work with her north of the border and beyond. A lot of people hit social media and the business saying they were not down with that at all, and they would never work with someone like that. So she might face being kind of sort of blackballed to some extent in a lot of promotions, but her husband is a somewhat known boxer down in Mexico, so I don't know how much it will impact her lifestyle if she sits out a bit. And she's even, looked at boxing and doing other things, but AAA owns the IP. They own the mask. Antonio Pena in the 90s, very much like Vince McMahon, started trademarking the characters he created, like La Parka, and that way he could always control the gimmick. And Sexy Star happens to be one of those gimmicks. It was a very sophisticated strategy for a Mexican office to start doing that in the 90s, way ahead of the times for Mexico. And they kind of protect themselves for situations like this.
Man, I'll tell you what, I never even thought about that, but god dang, what a smart idea to trademark all that. I didn't know they were doing that over there. Obviously, I knew Vince was doing it, but the Sexy Star gimmick, and I never really, not followed too much of that, style of wrestling, so I'd not really heard of her until she made all the headlines. But yeah, it's a great gimmick. And then I heard just, reading through the internet, I was hearing on, Jericho kind of put it out there, hey man, you'll never be on the Jericho podcast, or, Chris Jericho has his own network at PodcastOne, and he pretty much put his the way he felt about the match or the actions, and he said, you're never going to be on one of my platforms. So, and I was hearing a lot of blowback from that. And when I was thinking about that, I was like, if someone's giving you their arm, you got to take care of that arm. And so the whole thing, I mean, you know what? Here's the thing, Court. The business is a work, and people think, yeah, everything's fine and dandy. But, sometimes you get out there and shit happens. But when something happens like this, and it's an act out of malice or malicious intent, it takes it to a whole nother level. Accidents happen all the time, true accidents. Now, you can go out there and work snug, and you can pop somebody, break their beak or whatever, and, that's an acceptable accident. This was something that was... And I don't even think she was caught up in the moment, whether she thought of it before the match, during the match, or whatever, but it was something that she put some thought behind, and there was malice behind it, and Rosemary came out on the bad end of the deal of this thing. So, hey man, I think the young lady's going to have a hard time finding bookings.
Yeah, I wouldn't book her for sure. I have a show coming up, but I wouldn't book her.
Dude. If I'm running a promotion, I'm gonna say, talk to. Let's just say Sasha Banks is working for me. I'm saying, Sasha, god dang, you've got the belt. You're my champion. I want to bring Sexy Star and work with you. I think Sasha's gonna tell me, you know what, Steve? I don't think so. and plus, I would never put Sasha in that position to begin with because, she's my champion. I've got to look out for her. I'm not bringing that other person in.
Yeah, and it's a liability. It's a real shoot liability. And for AAA, it put them in a precarious situation because they're trying to build a somewhat of an alliance, strategic alliance of sorts with Global Force Wrestling. The top people from Global Force Wrestling, Ed Nordholm, and at the time, Jeff Jarrett, who was still with the company then, were there at the event backstage. So they see one of their talents being taken advantage of. You got all types of consequences from their end looking at this. And so, yeah, the ramifications for something like this are plenty. And she put everyone in a bad spot. Sexy Star put AAA in a bad spot. Of course, Rosemary in a bad spot. And also Global Force Wrestling. And it's going to come, shit slides downhill. It's going to hit her hard and fast because I don't see who wants to do business with someone like that. And the people make excuses, well, this is part of the Mexican culture. That's bullshit. Straight up.
Yeah. Hey, before we take a break, a pause for the calls from sponsors, keep this show on the air for free. You sent me a couple of videos you've been working on down there in Florida. I want to talk about, you mentioned Global Force Wrestling. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about Jeff Jarrett and a few other things that are just floating around in the wrestling world. But also, MLW does have a show coming up. Where y'all going to be at? In Orlando?
Yep. October 5th, Major League Wrestling's coming back with MLW One-Shot. It's at Gilt Nightclub. You can get tickets starting at just $15 at MLW.com. We're going to have the UFC's Filthy Tom Lawler versus Olympian Jeff Cobb, MVP versus Sami Callihan, and in the main event, Ricochet, who is arguably pound for pound the best free agent out there right now, versus Shane Swerve Strickland. And we did a whole countdown series on them, which we'll talk about. And actually, in an exclusive, we'll break it right here, right now, when we're talking about women's wrestlers. You might have seen her in the Mae Young Classic, but Santana Garrett has signed on to be at MLW One-Shot. She'll be wrestling, and she's a second-generation wrestler, mentored by Scott Hall, Larry Zbyszko, and is a former Wonder of Stardom champion out in Japan. She's one of the most in-demand women's wrestlers around right now, a great athlete. So right here on the Steve Austin Show, we're going to break that news that she'll be wrestling October 5th in Orlando for MLW, and I'm excited about it. And I hear she's a big fan of yours. You're one of her inspirations for getting in the business, so put you over a little bit there. See what I did?
Hey, that's cool. I've been wanting to have him on a podcast anyway, so maybe Santana Garrett is a Steve Austin Show future guest. All right, Court, let's take a quick pause for the calls and thank another sponsor who makes this podcast possible, and that's MyBookie. MyBookie.ag has been the #1 rated online sports action site for 3 straight years. With the new NFL season starting this week, you can join thousands of online players and start betting at MyBookie. MyBookie has in-game live betting, the most rewarding player perks in the business, and an all-new best-in-class mobile website that makes wagering on the go. And unlike some other websites you might find, MyBookie offers fast, no-hassle payouts when you win. Join now, and MyBookie will match your deposit with up to a 100% bonus. Use the promo code UNLEAShed to activate this special offer. Visit mybookie.ag today or call 844-900-BETS. Expert or rookie, you got to check out MyBookie. Sign up today and use the promo code UNLEASH to activate the special offer.
This is Steve Austin Unleashed.
Here I am rolling down to Court Bauer. Surprisingly, somehow a miracle has happened. There's not been a technology glitch. All the little levels on my recording meters are still moving. The show is still on the air. And I almost, at the beginning of the podcast, almost just gave this shit up because of technology problems. Court Bauer is my guest today. We're talking all kinds of bullshit about pro wrestling. Court, you brought up a name. You brought up Global Force Wrestling and Jeff Jarrett. All of a sudden, I get a text message today. My Twitter timeline starts going crazy. Jeff Jarrett, did he leave? Did they make him leave? What was the reasons for his departure? What's the story there, dude? Because I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, of course, Jeff Jarrett, a founder of TNA Wrestling, which then morphed into Impact Wrestling, which then merged with Global Force Wrestling once Anthem Sports took it over. Now is gone from the company. He was kind of overseeing the day-to-day operations from the wrestling end, but Global Force Wrestling announced this week that he would be leaving and taking an I guess they called it an indefinite leave of absence from the company to deal with personal issues. And it's one of those things where now there's a question mark. Who is running the day-to-day operations for Global Force Wrestling? Ed Norholm, who's the executive vice president of Anthem Sports Entertainment and oversees a lot of the business end, but not really the wrestling operations end. Obviously, will probably be taking a bit of a step up. I know Ed somewhat. Great guy. He's actually a lawyer from Toronto, and the hard part though is finding a way to oversee wrestling operations. It's a unique job. You have to have a unique skill set to oversee that job with certain experience that's very hard to come by this day and age. So Jim Ross is contracted to WWE. He would be a great get for something like this. So who do they go with to fill this unique position? Someone in-house? Do they take someone like Dutch Mantel and elevate him to this status? I mean, he has been a booker and managed a lot of the wrestling operations for Puerto Rican
but when
companies.
You say wrestling operations, Court, you're wearing that hat. What comes with wearing the hat? What are the day-to-day responsibilities of that position?
Oh, it's a bit talent relations. It's a little bit of the contract and negotiations. It's a little bit of just dealing with wrestlers, and you're part babysitter, you're part manipulator, you're part overseeing the actual live event operations of what the wrestling show looks like. You're dealing with production. I mean, you are in a lot of ways the central nervous system to what everyone sees and experiences when they see the product, either live or on TV. And that's not someone you can just hire that has an MBA. That is someone that really needs to know a very unique business that you can't just read a guide on and go in and do. And people that have worn those hats, there's not many that have that experience. And so Global Force really finds themselves with a big question mark. And Sports Illustrated earlier today had a story out that Anthem Sports, the parent company that owns Global Force, is possibly looking to sell it. And they outlined what this could be as terms of an opportunity for WWE to acquire the library that goes back to 2002, and that way then absorb the IP for the broken Matt Hardy character, which would be a huge get for the Hardys in particular, and I think they would love that. Who's to say that will happen? WWE hasn't commented publicly on it. As we record this, Global Force Wrestling and Anthem haven't made a public statement about that. They're kind of going that business is going along as usual. So I don't know. There's a lot of question marks hanging over Global Force Wrestling, which is they are putting on a good show. Jim Cornette is on TV now doing a great job. I think the roster is really solid. They had a few bumps in the road when they had their champion Alberto El Patron have the public issues he's had, which were everywhere this summer. But then they seem to be in a good place for the last few weeks, and then this happened. And maybe you can trace it back to TripleMania. I guess there was some stuff that went on backstage too, but I wasn't there, so I don't know. I don't want to comment on it. So it's unfortunate to see Global Force now with what everyone thought was a new lease on life have some problems.
So do you see this man, if WWE made that buy, monetize all that content, put it on the WWE network?
It's a distinct possibility. They're always looking for content. Where do they value this content? At what price? At what dollar? And the flip side of that is, strategically, does it work for Anthem just to shutter the company, shut it down, and use that content on the Fight Network and just keep bicycling it and just use it as is and not have to deal with the issues at hand with running a wrestling operation and losing money? Because the burn on a wrestling venture like Impact or Global Force now, the money burn on that is significant. And it's a question they're certainly going to have to ask themselves, because they have no property like this in their portfolio. There's nothing like this in Anthem Sports. They're mostly into networks. They own Pursuit. They own a fantasy network based here in New York. But there's nothing like a live wrestling league or any type of league or sports property beyond this venture. And what's weird and really muddles things is that they rebranded as Global Force Wrestling, which Jeff Jarrett owns the IP to. And now that he is indefinitely gone, not maybe fired, but gone, taking a sabbatical, maybe Dusty Rhodes would call it. What does that mean? Because he owns the IP that they're using and operating as the brand itself. Anthem doesn't apparently own that. So this becomes a bit of a messy situation for Anthem and how they clean this thing up. Very complicated. It almost makes you wonder, if you were Anthem, Steve, what would you have done? Acquire, at the time, TNA from Dixie Carter and Panda Energy, or use those dollars to just start up your own company?
God damn, dude. All the boys back in Tennessee when I was first breaking in, and everybody was like, hey, you know what? I'm saving up my money, and whenever I get enough money, I'm going to start my own territory. The few guys that did start their own territory, usually all of them went belly up. So starting up your own shit, just, for the sake of starting up your own shit, doesn't seem to be a good idea. Me being the guy that was known as Stone Cold Steve Austin, stomping mud holes and walking them dry, that was what I specialized in. I have no idea what would have been a good move for Anthem with respect to either starting their own shit or buying what they bought. I don't have any idea. I don't know where they go from here. I don't even know how the fuck you watch their show. Where's it at?
It's on Pop TV, and what was interesting is they just re-upped for another year with Pop TV, which you think, well, that's good news. That seems like a positive indication of where their business is. The problem is the deal itself, it's a barter deal, which means that they split the ad time. So maybe there's 12 minutes an hour that they then split maybe 50-50 or 60-40, however they split that up, and they then have the minutes for those ads, for those 12 minutes to split up and then sell that ad inventory for. And if you have a great sales team, that can be a favorable proposition. If you don't perform well, then you're really just putting your show on for free and not making any money. Now, internationally, they're making good money in certain markets like India, as an example, and other key regions. So that helps them, but certainly getting paid here would have helped them more. Jeff Jarrett was seen over the summer at a Bellator show here in New York, and there were some rumblings that he had a meeting with Spike, but evidently, if that was the case, nothing materialized because they just re-upped with Pop. And so, that's they're kind of on a treadmill. And where does this go? They experimented doing some live events, and they were a little bit soft on ticket sales there. But again, I think they've done a very good job creatively with making this product really good and sharpening it, especially the last few weeks of watching. It's a really fun show to watch. Great talent out there. EC3 is fantastic. They have a good crew. Dutch Mantel, who oversees creative, has done a great job in finding roles for everyone on that show, the women, the men, everything, and they're all different roles. And that's not an easy thing, because having talked to Dutch, man, when you have to do 3 to 4 days of TV in a row that then is your TV for the next 2 months, the creative algebra that you have to do to figure out and keep shit together for the period of 8 weeks of TV when you're shooting over the next 96 hours is exhausting and very dizzying, especially because they sometimes shoot stuff out of order for various logistical reasons, and also probably for spoilers to keep things a little off. So you really then it's dizzying to try to make that work, and he's done a really good job. I don't think gets enough credit for what he's done for that product. So and really an unsung hero in the business right now. He really is a real hell of a creative mind.
I just didn't see why WWE didn't keep that guy around just in some shape or form or capacity, just because, man, he was one of the guys that I learned some of the most important stuff from, riding up down the roads back in 91 in the USWA. Dutch was my mentor after I got away from Chris Adams, and I was riding up down the roads. I mean, he was the one giving me advice. I mean, he was the one that came up with Steve Austin. He came up with Stunning Steve Austin, but it was also the psychology, and not just of what happened in a match, but through the course of an angle. And of course, watching him every single night in the ring, whether he's working Lawler, Dundee, whoever, tag team, 6-man, and then watching what he did with the book in Puerto Rico and the various places that he's been. But he's a real bright guy. He knows the business. Jesus Christ, I think as well as anybody that's around these days.
He does, and that's the thing that I really miss is those kind of opportunities where you could go on the road and just be a sponge and learn, and then pick someone's brain and then have them further enhance you based on their experience and their input, their feedback. And having had the opportunity to talk to Dutch several times, man, he'll talk for a long time if you let him. And man, I just sit back and I'll listen. I was like, man, can I just record this and this can be a podcast? But also for me, just great insight, because he's been in so many territories. He's booked in so many places. He's seen it at the highest levels too. And he's just a sharp dude. He's a sharp dude. And he's no spring chicken too. He's in his 60s, but he's still writing what I think is a very solid contemporary show. And I think it's rooted in the fundamentals. He was a booker. He wasn't someone that was a writer. He was a booker, but he also was able to be savvy enough to modernize his skill set to apply it to today's product. That's something a lot of people are challenged by.
Hey man, one thing you said earlier when you were talking about Ricochet, you talked about him being one of the most valuable free agents out there on the market today. And I was like, man, free agent. I thought that guy had signed with WWE and was just waiting for things to happen so he could get on the road with them or, start working for him. Is he still a free agent? Is he not signed?
He is a free agent. He is not signed. He is spending his time internationally in New Japan. He is in high demand and booked all over the place. He has a Lucha Underground contract that is still in effect. That probably will be the case until, I'd say, maybe the first of the year. He might also have a New Japan contract. I don't know about that, but that would just cover him for over there. So I can't speak to the details, but generally speaking, yeah, he is not with WWE. That is definitely one of the big milestones for him that he sees on his horizon. And having worked and spent a lot of time with him the last few months, I mean, he is really continually up in his game. And I think, having worked with him too, I see a different side of him. You know, he's never really had the luxury of cutting his own promos. For some reason, Lucha Underground made him a mute, which is bizarre, but they did. And having worked with him and let him speak, I mean, you saw the MLW 360 videos. He's a very low-key heel in it. He's a subtle heel, but you can see the condescending voice, and it escalates from episode to episode. They're like 2-minute episodes on YouTube, and you can see he's smug. He's a little condescending towards Shane Strickland, and you can see, man, this guy, you put him in the WWE system for a bit, he's going to be a hell of a force if and when that does happen.
Well, you know, the thing about it is, him not doing a whole lot of promos, when I started watching some of his interviews or the segments or whatever you'd call them, god dang, the kid is really well spoken. He comes across as, dare I say, confident, and he's certainly not overconfident with his ability in the ring. I mean, the guy's a hell of a damn worker and has just an arsenal of offense that is just spectacular. But, man, this kid speaks really well. So I just thought the spots were really well done, and they really set the stage for the pay-per-view. God dang, you and I talk all the time on the telephone. I didn't know that you were even planning a show down there. When did you start getting in the planning phase of this and decided, hey, man, I'm going to do a card and I'm going to put it on this date and we're going to do it down in Orlando?
In the spring, yeah, having done Wally Mania down in Orlando, we actually, had a lot of interest from other venues to bring something else down there. And I had a lot of fun planning this show. I got to be honest, I never thought I'd enjoy promoting and booking because when I was very young, it was just so overwhelming. But I have such a great team I am surrounded by with MSL and Alex Greenfield and George Carroll, and the list goes on, that it really has been a lot of fun. Like, I professionally don't think I've ever had this much fun in something I'm involved with. Just it's really been just a ball to do. And over the course of, I'd say, like, starting in June, we really started to rev things up, and in July we started filming on the MLW 360 countdown series, these 2-minute little YouTube videos we're going to do, and we have 3 out now. And just in terms of, if I'm going to do this, I wanted to do it right, and I thought, man, the 2 guys I know that will just kill it out there and leave it all out there with a cutting-edge match it's Ricochet, who is, to me, arguably the number 1 free agent out there, and Shane Strickland, who is just having this phenomenal run. This year has been like a breakout year for him, and he's a hell of a talent with a military background, and he employs what he calls military combatives, something he picked up in the Army or military doing, where you do close quarters fighting, kind of like a little bit of Krav Maga, jiu-jitsu, striking, and he used that in his wrestling, and I think it's a really cool, distinct style. So, to have this guy in Ricochet that's the gold standard, from New Japan to the U.S., hands down, like the top free agent, and Strickland, these guys just made this main event. It's first of all, it's easy for me. I just made my job a lot easier when you put those 2 guys together in there. And then just to have a story where it starts with what is a shoot. They are really good friends that live near each other in Orlando, and there's a rivalry there, because Ricochet does believe he is like the top guy, and he likes to put guys and check their game and stuff. And we see the evolution over the series of the 360 series, where they start as friends, and kind of like HBK and Bret Hart, where they were friends and one looked up to the other, and by the end of it, they were bitter enemies. And that's kind of how this thing is starting to play out, and you'll just have to see how it turns out. But it's been a lot of fun doing this 360 experiment. Kind of took me back to when I was doing a lot of UFC Fight Pass stuff, and kind of using some of those skills from shooting that stuff and using it with this series to kind of show wrestling in a different way and shoot angles in a different way, and use guys like Seth Petrozelli, who was sparring with Strickland at his gym in Orlando. He's the guy that knocked out Kimbo Slice, so to have him work on Strickland's stand-up game and stuff just gives a different dynamic to a pro wrestling build.
Well, what's the venue? Where's this thing going to be at?
Gilt Nightclub in Orlando. They just put in $1.5 million to just a complete overhaul of the venue. They have this beautiful LED wall. It looks beautiful, great sound system. It's a real first-class venue, and so it's great. And it's just a very convenient location in Orlando, and they've been great partners for us. And I just thought, I always liked. If I was going to do this, I wanted to do something that had a cool atmosphere, not just your local venue. And this place checks off all the boxes. It really looks cool. Every section of the venue has a distinct different feel. They have an amazing lighting system. It's going to look different. It's not going to look like what you'd see out there. It's going to have a really cool look to it. And I wanted a card that also felt a little different too. Having a UFC fighter versus an Olympian like Jeff Cobb and Filthy Tom Lawler, I think is a pretty cool matchup. It's the first time they've ever fought each other. And Jeff Cobb's just a beast, just a suplexing beast. And Tom Lawler, great. You're a huge UFC guy. That guy can talk a lot of shit. He's a huge fan of wrestling. Actually started in wrestling before he moved over to MMA, and now he's back in wrestling. Just a great get. And then we're gonna have some great prospects. There's a great guy named MJF, who to me is a can't miss talent that I think is gonna just blow up over the next few years. He's only 21, and he's a great get for us as well. And so it's been great working with all these guys. They're so hungry, they're so talented. And I should also mention, for the first time in 16 years, I was somehow, some way able to convince Tony Schiavone to return to call the show. He'll be there live calling it. It'll be available on VOD.
Oh, shit, that's great.
I really didn't when I made the phone call, I didn't expect him to say yes. And, dude, he was excited. And so he'll be calling wrestling for the first time in a long time. He has a podcast every week with us on MLW Radio. But for him to go back in the booth, he'll be there in the house recording it live with Rich Brennan, formerly of NXT, now Rich Bucchini. It's a great team up. Rich Bucchini was inspired to be an announcer by watching Tony and JR on TBS back in the day. So to have Tony back in there calling it for us is such an honor. And you can if you want to hear the show, you can't get to Orlando. You can see the show. It'll be available within 72 hours on MLW.TV. You'll be able to stream it, download it for under $5. And so it's a lot of fun, and this show just feels a little different than anything else out there, I guess.
Okay, well, here's one. Let's take the people into the promoters' footsteps, which would be you, and making the phone calls. You call Schiavone. You don't expect him to say yes. He does. That's awesome. It'll be neat to hear Tony calling again. So you call Shane Strickland, Ricochet. They're in. All of a sudden you start calling the rest of the card. So tell me about, first of all, putting the card together and then making the calls, just as far as how they're received. I mean, did you have to talk anybody into the gig? I mean, what's the backstory on laying all these phone calls down and getting the yes or no?
Well, I had a lot of help. MSL, who's my right-hand man on this stuff, he made a lot of the calls. He has a great pulse for the talent out there too. I looked at a lot of talent, so did he, and we kind of split it up. And so he would reach out. I was reaching out to other talent, so we kind of covered a lot of ground quickly. For me, in terms of building this card, I really wanted to showcase the next generation, because really this year I've seen so many great wrestlers from around the world. It was very inspiring. I wanted to kind of give them a platform, and that's what the show, really the spirit of the show is all about, is giving these great stars today and tomorrow's great stars a platform, and showcasing them, celebrating them. And so I wanted this card to reflect that. But I also want the card to be true to my booking style that I was taught and that I believe in, and having a little bit of variety, a little bit of something for everyone, and that's what we want. So you have a bit of like a strong style match with Lawler and Cobb. Then you have just what's going to be a hell of a brawl, I think, with MVP and Sami Callihan. Then you have a cutting edge aerial combat style match with Strickland and Ricochet. And then the rest of the card, you'll see a lot of different things. I believe that there's always a place for big men, for the fat man. I think it's very important to showcase women's wrestling, so that's why we want one of the best out there in Santana to be on this show. So I think it's just important that balance this card with a little bit of everything. So you can be a fan of something, but you might come for that but stay for something else. That's important to me.
Everybody's looking for the next, platform to show, who and what they are. So obviously this presents a great opportunity for many of the talent that you've got on the card. When it comes time to talking dollars and cents with these guys and gals, how's that? I'm not asking for numbers, but just where are you at with your comfort zone? I mean, because everybody has their bottom line, especially on something like this. I know you don't have money falling out of your ass. Or, you'd have everybody in the world over here. And, dude, that's the nature of promotion anyway. One time a promoter told me, you might have heard of him. He said, Steve, as a promoter, you never want a talent to know what they're worth.
I wonder who that was.
That is just the hard brass tacks of any business that you get into. But you're out there, and then when it comes time to talking dollars and cents, how comfortable are you in that arena?
Well, you're balancing. I'm very honest because that really takes the pressure off of you, and you say, listen, you explain your situation, you explain what how much this talent means to you, and you try to find something that works for both parties. And sometimes you're in a situation where you may be challenged that it may not work right now, and that's fine because it's just business. If it can't work right now, you have to be disciplined enough to say, hey, listen, we'd love to use you, but our budget is this. And we right now can't put you in at that price that you need. And sometimes then it'll be so meaningful to them that they will still they'll find a way for it to work. They can get creative if they really want to. And some guys, it's about being a part of something special. And so for them, it's an investment in their future because the dollars come and go, but the perception or the elevated profile is more meaningful. So if the show has some prestige to it, then they'll elect to maybe forego their usual rate for something a little lower to be a part of it. But some guys, listen, you're going to get me to leave my house, you've got to pay $X. There's no wiggle room, and you have to respect that too. And it's a business, Some people, I think, make the mistake of trying to be. They blend their personal life and their professional life, and those lines get muddied. And as Scott Hall would always say, it's called show business, not show friends. And there's a lot to that. But you don't want to be some cold-hearted prick too. So, you just got to balance it all. And that sometimes a lot of this is about, friends and connections too. Because, if your friend calls you up and say, hey, man, you want to come in and have some fun? Yeah, hell yeah. But again, if the dollars don't make sense for either party, then it is what it is.
But also just as far as geographically, specifically for this show, obviously it works out for your main event because they both live there. How did that work out with respect to the rest of the card? Because you ain't got to fly those guys in.
Yeah, well, that strategically was another plus of Orlando. Is there's so much talent that is relocated to Orlando for the WWE Performance Center, and just to fly out of Orlando. It's a great market because you can get direct flights virtually almost everywhere, and the cost of living there is great. It's a wonderful place to live weather-wise. Hopefully they dodge this upcoming hurricane, but yeah, it made it really easy for us because we were able to get great talent, like world-class talent, that it's like a 10-minute drive to just come down the road on a Thursday night in October and have some fun. And I think for them that's a plus too. And that for me allows me to do a lot more media because I have great connections down there. So our guys have been on ESPN Radio down in Orlando. They've done the Orlando Sentinel with Jay Reddick and a lot of different Miami Herald too. So it's been great for us because you got to promote. That's the other thing. You got to promote. If you just put out a card on your website and tweet about it, you're not doing enough. And putting up posters isn't enough. You got to be a true blue promoter. And I saw that firsthand at WWE. That machine is such a beast, and it never stops. They're promoting. Any outlet and every outlet, they're putting their town out there and they're getting their talking points out there, and that is imperative.
Dude, you ain't kidding. I just got finished shooting Broken Skull Challenge, and we make our season premiere on September 26th, Tuesday, 9 p.m. Central on CMT. And here's the thing, man. The guys from CMT came out there, and I said, hey, man, this is great to be out here doing season 5, but we got to promote this season for it to be successful. And I said, hey, man, I got fortunate enough to, be in a lot of great, wrestling matches, and I headlined 3 matches, 3 WrestleManias with The Rock, and it was awesome. But the thing about it is, if no one would have known about those matches, you couldn't watch them. So what did Vince do? He does what they always do, promotes the shit out of them. And they do that not just for WrestleMania, but for everything. But promotion is the key. I said, it's one thing to have a cool show and be able to survive. But if you throw gasoline on it, promote it, you can not only survive, but you can thrive and just be on fire. So,
yep.
Yeah, dude, you got to promote everything you do. And WWE does that, and me, doing what I do now with Broken Skull Challenge, I'm always talking to CMT. We got to promote this thing. We got to promote this thing. You got to let people know it's on, and it's a cool show. It's a hit show. So that being said, you can't just let it survive by itself. You got to keep throwing gas on it because that's how good it is. Promote the some bitch. So, yeah, I'm in the same ballpark with you. Before we wrap up, and I want to get you to give everybody the 411 about your podcast, your whole network, and plug the event one more time. But was there any other ramblings, rumors, or anything out there that we did not cover? Just because we just shot the breeze about wrestling, but was there anything else that made any news that I missed?
Well, yeah. Ronda Rousey challenging WWE's Four Horsewomen down at the Mae Young Classic. They I guess shot it and put it on WWE.com. They basically did an angle there where the Four Horsewomen, Charlotte, you had Bayley there, and you had Becky confronting Ronda Rousey and her crew, because Shayna Baszler's, of course, competing in the Mae Young Classic, and that to me plants the seeds for what I believe is going to be something I predicted on Twitter about 2 months ago. You're going to have the UFC or MMA's Four Horsemen versus the WWE's Four Horsemen at Survivor Series. They haven't announced that match, but man, they cut that angle, and I'm looking at Survivor Series. In the last few years, they've really pumped up Survivor Series to be a meaningful attraction with the top match, and I think they just got themselves a hell of a match. Now, you look at that one side of the MMA version of the Four Horsemen, there's only one that has real experience in the ring, but you have a lot of talented women in there. I think they'll be able to get through that easily.
So do you go Survivor or do you take it to Mania?
I would personally take it to Mania, but I hear that they may, if they're going to do this, they're going to do it in the fall, but we'll see. I mean, all just rumors and speculation, but that's a big match. That's a huge match. Do you think it's too big for Survivor Series?
No, well, I mean, Survivor Series being right around the corner, Mania might be too far away to shot the angle when you say they shot it. So maybe that's too far down the road, and you need to go ahead and have it sooner rather than later, and then maybe based out of the Survivor finish, you take it back into Mania. So Mania seems a long way away, but just when you said, hey man, the WWE's or NXT's Four Horsewomen versus Rousey's crew of the Four Horsewomen, who we've been around forever since Ronda's been around. I mean, no, that's a big deal, and I had not heard of that. So that's how away from the business I can be at times. I get a lot of stuff going on over here on the side, but no, that's awesome to hear that, and it's awesome to see that Ronda's doing something else other than MMA.
Well, you have all these technical issues. You don't have time to focus on wrestling, damn it. You can't get this podcast running right. But it's a big match for Houston. I'm like, man, for Houston, that's where Survivor Series is. I love Houston, and they just went through some shit with that hurricane. But that, to me, feels like that match should be at WrestleMania. I wouldn't see it at Rumble. I wouldn't see it at Survivor Series. I'd see that match at WrestleMania. And like you said, you can do this match and then spin it out to maybe 2 or 3 singles matches with Charlotte versus Ronda and Sasha or Bayley or Becky versus Baszler. And those could be, very compelling matches onto their own. You could also put Stephanie in there, do Ronda versus Stephanie, because they already shot that angle in San Jose a few years back. And sometimes Stephanie's down to get in there. So there's a million directions this can go in. It really is. I just don't know what the availability, if they end up doing this hypothetical thing, is. Well, what's the availability of a Ronda Rousey? She just got married, and so what is her future? Is it just maybe she'll do wrestling a few times a year, and maybe they take that money they were going to give to Brock Lesnar and they now give it to Ronda Rousey.
Okay,
or
we got to go back.
Yeah.
Hold on, we got to go back to Brock Lesnar because at the beginning of the podcast when we started about Lesnar versus Strowman,
Yes.
I mean it was all but a foregone conclusion, according to you, that Lesnar's gone.
Well, no. I just said that there's a compelling argument there. Let me ask you this: and I love Brock Lesnar, I really do. I'd rather have him than not have him. But if you're Vince McMahon, do you think that he's really made a difference in the network subscriptions? Do you think he's made a difference in house shows, the ratings, which have gone in one direction? Is his merchandise gangbusters? Is he worth the money you're giving him? And that's only Vince McMahon can answer that question.
Man, I don't know. I didn't know if you were looking at it from Brock's standpoint or WWE standpoint of one of them saying, you know what, it's been a good ride, but it's enough. And so I didn't know if you were speaking to, Brock's desire to get away from the business.
Well,
what is this rumor about? God dang, dude, with the John Jones thing. When John Jones called out Brock Lesnar, then John Jones gets popped. And now, of course, they're insisting, hey, man, someone tainted that sample. It wasn't him. But do you think that name came out of nowhere?
Man, let me put it this way. Brock Lesnar does not make himself easily accessible to the AP, let alone any reporter, unless it's by design. And so that was great leverage for him. The reality now is John Jones is possibly facing up to a 4-year suspension. If he gets that 4-year suspension, that's his prime years, his prime earning years. Does he pivot and look elsewhere? I don't see him as a talking head on Fox Sports or ESPN or something like that. I don't think the John Jones podcast experience would be a very fruitful venture for him. Maybe, though, taking his talents to WWE would be. And maybe it's a one-off thing. However, if you're Vince McMahon and you have a guy who's a huge pro wrestling fan that just did big bank against Mayweather, do you take Conor McGregor and do something with him in the next year or two? Because to me, of course you do.
Well, he's the hottest ticket in town right now.
He sure is. I mean, dude, and he can cut a promo, and I think he'd be a great get. People say, well, how do you get a return on investment? He's going to want a lot of money. Well, WWE, if you look at what they charge for WrestleMania in terms of ticket prices and how they shatter box office gates in Dallas as an example, and they'll do a great number in New Orleans as well this coming year. They can make that work financially. Plus, they get a site fee, a very sizable site fee from the city when they do a WrestleMania. On top of that, you can say, listen, this is part of our marketing budget to pump up the network. And we're entering a contract here in 2019 with Universal, USA, NBC to have McGregor involved to help pump up those ratings and get awareness high. Check. That works too. So I can make a pretty compelling argument to make that work and justify the investment in McGregor. Couldn't you?
Yes, I could. I just don't know if the kid will do it.
That's interesting. I mean, the thing that's also interesting is that the Mayweather-McGregor gate failed to break the all-time record, which shocked me. They reported it was just north of $55 million. Oh, just north of $55 million. It sounds like it's a bad number. That's a great number, but the all-time record is $72 million, which was the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. So did good business, but as a lot of people know, did not sell out in Vegas, but did great business also on pay-per-view.
Well, let's wrap this podcast up and ride off into the sunset. I want to close this thing down. And before I close it down, I want to give you a chance to talk about your podcast and one last time a plug for that event. And we'll talk again in the future, but before that event happens. But go ahead and drop the dates and all the information one more time, Court.
You got it. If you guys want to see some wrestling for as low as $15 a ticket, go to MLW.com because on Thursday, October 5th, MLW returns. We're coming to Orlando at Guild Nightclub with Ricochet versus Shane Strickland, MVP versus Sami Callihan, and will definitely be a nasty brawl. Filthy Tom Lawler versus Jeff Cobb in the UFC versus the Olympian. And we have guys like MJF coming up on that show. We have Santana Garrett, and the list goes on and on. Go to MLW.com. You can get tickets there for as low as $15. I expect this event is going to sell out, so don't sleep on those tickets. Check out also the MLW 360 series, which you can also check out at MLW.com. And if you can't make it to Orlando, come around that weekend of October 5th because on MLW.TV, our OTT, you'll be able to watch the show, stream it on demand, with Tony Schiavone returning to the broadcast booth for the first time since WCW, teaming up with NXT's former announcer Rich Brennan, a.k.a. Rich Bucchini, as they call the action, and that'll drop within 72 hours of the event. You'll be able to stream it, download it, and it's going to be a lot of fun. You don't want to miss this show. It's got a lot of buzz, and I think it's going to deliver and exceed expectations. Check it out. Get your tickets, MLW.com.
Court, as always, good talking to you.
Hey, good talking to you too, Steve. Good luck with your Skype problems.
I'll catch you down the road.
Hello, this is Coach Jim Harbaugh with my esteemed colleague and co-host JT Rogan, and we're excited to announce our new podcast, Attack Each Day, the Harbaugh's podcast, that's coming to PodcastOne.
Each week we'll be talking to different members of the Harbaugh family, along with athletes, celebrities, and unique guests.
On different episodes, we'll have my dad Jack, my brother John, my sister Joni, my wife Sarah, and even my kids from time to time. We'll have great guests each week, and we'll attack each podcast with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind.
Sounds pretty good to me. So join us each Tuesday on Attack Each Day, the Harbaugh's podcast, here on PodcastOne. Also make sure to subscribe on PodcastOne.com, on the new PodcastOne app, or at Apple Podcasts. And Coach, who's got it better than us?
I know the answer to that, JT. Nobody.
Before we finish the show, here's a heads up that UFC 215 is coming up this Saturday, September 9th, and it is a heck of a card. UFC's first and only flyweight champion has a chance to make history in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, as Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson defends his title against Ray Borg. Tied with Anderson Silva for most successful title defenses in UFC history, Johnson can shatter that record with just one more win. Plus, one of UFC's fiercest rivalries will be settled as Amanda Nunes defends her women's bantamweight title against Valentina Shevchenko in a highly anticipated rematch. UFC 215 Johnson vs. Borg is Saturday, September 9th, live on pay-per-view from Rogers Place in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. All right, everybody, give me the go-home cue. It's time to wrap up this podcast and ride off in the sunset. And when I say ride off in the sunset, that means I am going to drink my Diet Red Bull, train chest today. I'll probably work out for about 40, 45 minutes, get some abs in there, or core, rather, and then jump on my super cycle, my Assault Air Bike, and crank out some high-intensity interval cardio. Get that kind of workout going. People have been asking me on Twitter or whatever, the emails to questions at steveaustonshow.com what my diet's been. My diet has been a modified ketogenic diet. I'm eating higher protein than you normally would on a keto diet. Normally, your fat intake is very high, about 75%, 70-75% of your diet or your macros is fat, and that's not mine. I'm eating a higher protein-based eating regimen. My fats are medium low, actually, not a whole lot of fat, and as compared to standard. And my net carb intake is under 25, and I've been getting good results. A lot of people say if you're eating a high protein keto diet, then your body's going to convert through gluconeogenesis, you're going to convert proteins into carbs. Hey, man, I don't know about all that scientific jargon and all that bullshit. I just know that what I'm doing is working for me. I've been very consistent with my effort in the gym and with cardio, and very consistent with my diet and with damn near 99.9% elimination of alcoholic beverages. So I am seeing results using this diet, and a lot of people think that you have to have those fats jacked up. What I've done so far has worked for me, and as I continue trying to drop to my goal weight, fire up the Traeger grill and cook my salmon for the night, and I'm looking forward to it. Hey, man, Broken Skull Challenge, we're about to have our season premiere Tuesday, September 26th, 10/9 Central on CMT. This is season 5. Could be the last season we ever do. I don't know. You always think that the last season you do might be the last season you ever do, so maybe get picked up again. But this is an epic season. I recommend that you don't miss it. I recommend that you do set your DVRs for CMT, September 26th, 10/9 Central. All the T-shirts I'll be wearing will be coming from ProWrestlingTees.com/Steve Austin. I'm going to make a new shirt available on Monday at ProWrestlingTees.com/Steve Austin. It's a badass shirt. Anyway, you can find all that shit there and set your DVRs. You ain't going to want to miss this season, I promise you. If you're thirsty, I got a beer for your ass. Best damn IPA on the planet, Broken Skull IPA. Created by myself and Rob Croxall over at El Segundo Brewing Company. And you can find Broken Skull IPA at Whole Foods and Total Wines if you live in California. If you don't live here, check InsideTheCellar.com and see if they ship to your state. And if you're looking for a badass, sharp-ass, tough-ass knife, check out the Cold Steel Broken Skull knife or the Cold Steel Working Man knife, and you can get them at my new Amazon store. Amazon has the best price on both knives. Just go to Amazon.com/shop/Steve Austin. I want to say one more thank you to all the fine sponsors of the Steve Austin Show. That's how I'm able to do this podcast for you twice a week for free. And you can find all my sponsors at PodcastOne.com. Just click on the Killer Deals button at the top of the page and then click on the Steve Austin Show banner. And speaking of Podcast One, the Podcast One is constantly looking to improve our show by making your podcasting experience even better and keeping the Steve Austin Show free to download with minimal ads. Head over to podcastone.com/mysurvey or go to podcastone.com and click on the survey banner to take a short, completely anonymous survey. The survey is less than 5 minutes of your life and will go a long way in helping us find appropriate advertisements for the Steve Austin Show. The survey is less than 5 minutes of your life and will go a long way in helping us find appropriate advertisers for the Steve Austin Show. If you've done the survey before, we really appreciate it if you did it again so we can constantly evolve and better suit your needs. Again, go to podcastone.com/mysurvey or go to podcastone.com and click on the survey banner to fill out this short, anonymous survey. Folks, until next time, my name is Steve Austin, and I will catch your ass down the road.
Download new episodes of Steve Austin Unleashed every Thursday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.